Dobar dan I dobrodošli.
Greetings and welcome to the debate organized by the Čaglavica Media Center within the project Cooperation with the Media in Kosovo, which, beside to our media center, is implemented by some other media and media organizations with the goal of supporting human rights, democracy, and fighting disinformation. This is our eighth and final debate within the project. The topic of today is accusations against journalists and media following the arrest of directors of schools and healthcare institutions in Kosovo. Are these facts or political manipulation? As we are aware, last week, Srpska Lista, respectively, one of their representatives, Igor Simic, 3 times mentioned the media as participating in supporting the arrest of directors in Kosovo by media, and the journalists were accused of pursuing, or let me chronologically read at the conference on 19th of May, Mr. Sim is talking about reporting of some media has mentioned that some are media participating in persecution of certain persons, also adding that this is politically motivated activity, and he has not singled out any specific media or journalists, and adding that all those who do this will recognize themselves. Also in the press release of Srpska Lista, when the detention remand was issued to several of the directors, said that this is done with direct support by Nenad Rashid and some quasi-journalists who, for a handful of gold and silver, have supported this persecution of the directors. And then the next day, 22nd of May, Igor Simic again talked about quasi-journalists and quasi-media, which, as he said, are organizing media plays without singling out any individually. Also, and said that when tens of Serbs lost their income because of becoming part of integration with rejecting to working Logovac and other towns, there were no debates organized on this issue. Considering that this is happening 3 days in 3 times in 4 days period, this is not something, some kind of hunt for the media journalists, because, as they say, you might say that the central offices might make a mistake once, but not 3 times. I don't know what could be next, to take out some kind of old version gun and start shooting towards journalists or something like that. So this type of targeting is even worse without singling out any media nor mentioning concrete complaints about the work, by the sense by having somebody violating ethics or publishing inaccurate information similar. So the aim is to discuss, open a discussion on the border, thin line between legitimate political criticizing of the media and potential pressurizing media and journalists. This debate, as all so far, are open for the public, intended this concretely to exchange opinions and positions, professional positions by media organizations and journalists, and we have also made a public call to all others, including political representatives, to come here and express their positions and opinions on this topic. The aim of discussion is not to find some conclusions on certain topics, but analysis of a wider context and what are the consequences of such discourse. Also, we will be talking about the position and the problem of Serbian media in Kosovo, as well as media freedom, or the latest Reporters Sans Frontiers issued just recently, where Kosovo has marked a 15 places jump in the position compared to last year. And let me just introduce our panelists at this time. Today we have Tadjana Lazarevic, Editor-in-Chief, Kosovo Portal, Goran Avramovic, Editor-in-Chief of Radio Kim, and Živojin Rakočević, the head of the Association of Serbian Journalists. Once again, welcome. I will be the moderator, and as I announced in my invitation, I will also participate in this topic and also answer questions if there will be any. Let us now start with Tanya, as we are sitting, in fact. The main dilemma is who was in Mr. Simic's mind, whom did he have in his thoughts? Did you recognize yourselves among this media and journalists who are persecuting, as he said, doctors, directors who were arrested, etc., and how, in fact, media should approach reporting when there are accusations on their behalf, especially, and if these are not singled out or supported by some kind of evidence. Did you, in your work, face situations where you were directly singled out, and where does this legitimate critic of media and begin political or public pressure over the journalists, and how such public accusations, even when these are not personalized or not mentioning singular names, affect editorial staff and in general media? Here you go. Thank you, Buddha. I did not recognize myself neither, nor our editorial office, their staff, nor did I recognize other colleagues, but at the same time, you cannot stay immune to such mentionings, especially when these come from the representatives of the political party in power and who for years were recognized as a part. We can mention it as an electoral campaign, and when media are presented as a political competitor. So media and politicians are not in the same field of play. They are in different areas and domains. Yes, we both cover public, but our work covers something else. I would not like to dwell into this topic so much. The best in such situations would be that the media remain professional and calm. This is my experience, without entering into personal nor political fights. And I would actually make a sign of equality in relation to danger to journalists or media if they start personal debates or political. There are situations when the editor-in-chief may assess and has the right to react, respectively is entitled to react, but this definitely cannot be at a personal basis. Although they might sign by their personal first and last name, although the accusations are all unclear, without any proof at the first instance, I will use the word of being gray as it is now. Everything but gray is the situation you just singled out now, that in several days, the same person, a politician, in 3 occasions, targets media without any concrete mentioning the media. It is important to insist on facts, transparency in work, and professional standards, and this is our obligation as a media. And considering that we have come here today, we show that we react in the minimum best possible way, and we will see how later the situation will evolve. Media should not ignore such messages, but also at the same time, this is our experience at least, we should also not allow such targeting and mentioning would bring them into the atmosphere of conflict, which is drawing attention from the public interest and the journalist's work, and we can recognize and actually can be suspectful that such statements inter alia aim to distract from the real problems according to the people's proverb, catch the thief. If we face similar things in our work, yes, regularly, and not only when we feel singled out by not being mentioned directly, but also we were actually even directly mentioned, even myself personally, in years in the media. I am the editor. This is not very rare. It is not our media that is the only one facing such issues. You also faced, the rest of you. I can only talk about our history, which I was registering, and I hope that within my best capabilities and conscience, I reacted in the most professional manner. It is up to the public to assess all this. And I want to say that this is not strange that media are in such a situation of being targeted often, being directly or indirectly, for two reasons mainly. Theoretically, this is characteristics for social, for an environment and territory which has tensions, where there are high tensions, polarization in certain societies, and we are currently living in such an environment. And I would also like to add, and what is modus operandi of those governments or politicians, where we in fact have MPs who are masters of propaganda, and we live in such a global time that our politicians are at the same time also masters in propaganda and not democracy nor pluralism. While we have both such situations, tensions in the environment, in the public, the politicians dealing with spin-offs, agitprop, media they influence, and also I would like to add that we are under double fire and propaganda when we talk about the political ecosystems. And in such situations, our editorial office has given its best to act in both fronts, institutional and professionally. What does it mean institutionally? Regardless how much institutions are not stable and there is dualism of power. Institutionally, we have reacted by reporting to competent bodies, and mostly this was reporting to professional associations, media professional associations, as well as considering that we had several examples of through targeting campaign. We also reacted by myself reporting, I would not say in tens of cases, but yes, let us say tens of occasions. I would report the ICT crime department every time in Belgrade, and I have to share something which is not so much smart to say publicly, but true. Even when I was drafting these reports and submitting them to the ICT department, I did not hope always that institutions would be doing their job professionally to the end, which for both objective and reasons I just mentioned. But I was witness to situations that very quickly after reporting to the ICT department in Belgrade, these campaigns would stop. I was submitting such reports by showing my suspicion and analyzing. It might sound funny, where I was like drafting the campaign, targeting campaign, which was targeted against me or the media. I am the editor-in-chief, and I would draft a full case study and then submit such a report to the department, telling them that I see what is going on, and then after such campaigns would very quickly stop. What I want to say is that the most important thing in such a situation is to remain calm, that the editorial office should remain stable and calm from within, and that the expectations of the public should not be disappointed. And in such situations, we mostly would increase our scope of work and make our best not to have these campaigns stop us in our work. Where does the legitimate criticize stop, and where there's political pressure of the media and journalists, which is characteristic to what you are saying, the statements you're saying, because we are participating in such a case study now with these three statements in a short period of time, which the Srpska Lista representative has shared without singling out any media. Legitimate criticizing means arguments, concrete arguments, examples, evidence. And it is very important not to forget ever that the right of the public is to always question the work of the media. However, pressures begin at the moment when the media or journalists are targeted without any publicly provided evidence, are being labeled, and when they are shown as enemies and not professionals whose work is analyzed professionally and criticized. And this critics is especially dangerous when it comes from the political highest positions or representatives of the government, because such of mentioning, I would not say criticizing, or attempts to discredit are very dangerous and have very high effects for both institutionalization of targeting and the scope of influence towards the public, and how to say widening direct or indirect effects of such targeting and such public accusations. And I will be concluding now. Even when these are not personalized, these affect the work of the editorial office. I did not recognize myself personally. Why didn't you recognize me personally? Because nothing what was shared, what Simic is telling is not true. So, as to our media. And at the same time, I would like to say, both regarding me and my colleagues, I don't know that there are any local media in Kosovo which do not deal with the interests of Serbian people, but I would not like interpret this in a way, that way, but I would not say that there are no Serbian media in Kosovo which do not work on the best interest of the community they report to. But it is important that regardless that we did not recognize ourselves, and this is confirmed by here as being today, such type of pressuring and targeting truly creates the atmosphere of pressures and uncertainty. And as it is the case now, it is not true, but Simic said that he never in any statements said these three, that he never publicly mentioned. It is totally this is the person who publicly has singled out persons. I will be sharing the example when which was the most difficult for me, when he mentioned a certain Dragutin in several occasions with terrible singling out on behalf of the head of the monastery in Dečani, Father Savha. I do not want to enter into this topic more, but even when not singling out anybody, journalists very well understand that such singling out have to deal with them as well. And this creates a general climate of insecurities, pressure, and with some journalists even a level of auto-censorship. Okay? Goran, how do you interpret this practice that media and journalists very often are being accused without singling out names or evidence? What might be the goal of such public accusations to the media? Do you consider that such statements contribute to the clarification of the situation or additional worsening? And how much is it important that these political actors argument their statements? What is lost when they use terms like everybody knows everything, you have given your best several days ago? That to hear from Mr. Simic what media is it about, what are the names, but you did not manage in that. So please go ahead. And did you also recognize the same question? And you personally? No, I did not recognize myself as well, nor colleagues from our editorial office. And bottom line, the archive of 20 and more years at our webpage very clearly and better explains why we did not recognize ourselves. Thank you for an opportunity to talk about something which truly is a very important topic in the context of our lives, because this media literacy we are missing, which the youth cannot teach and learn in school. We earlier had digital literacy with computers, but now we also have AI literacy. While in all this we cannot find time, and the time is going by, that I'm afraid that it might be too late when the robot does not make coffee for us. Before I answer to your questions, I would like to share only one data which is painful, truly painful. According to the assessment of the trends for 55% of served living south of Ibar do not trust any politicians, no non-political actor, regardless if these are individuals or political parties. 26.2% of Kosovo Serbs living in municipalities south of Ibar say that they do not follow the politics very often. Totally, this is around 80%, or translated in daily language, 4 out of 5 Serbs living in municipalities south of Ibar do not trust any politicians nor any political stakeholders. As to responding to your question, what is lost when participants in the public discourse, I'm not talking about politicians now, and not only them, when they use this term. Several things are lost. Tanya mentioned the first and the basic ones. Evidence and argumentation is lost. When you use the syntagma, everybody knows you are using a rhetorical shortcut to come to a conclusion. You are not talking about evidence, you are not exact, you are not conducting the entire process, but you are hiding behind the unknown denominator. Everybody knows, although not providing any evidence. Also, critical thinking is lost because there is no double checking. So if everybody knows, there is no need for us to ask any questions. How now? Everybody knows. What do we all know? What did we come to conclusion, and how did we come to this knowledge? And since this has to do with an unknown majority, there is no responsibility of the speaker. Simply they say this without any response, as people give comments on social networks. The preciseness is lost. When they say everybody knows, my sub-question, as the first sub-question is, who is all? Is it the citizens? Is it the media? Eventually party friends? So we do not have an answer to this question, and bottom line, the worst is that trust in public discourse is lost as well, because this is a classic deconstruction of trust in public institutions, and this, in this sense, is the most dangerous one. Examples we've faced other days as not a novelty at all. One of my most beloved writers has written, George Orwell has written a book I love, Politics in the English, and they all know, explained as giving strength to the wind, or translated in Serbian. So unbased arguments are given the basis of well-known truth or generally accepted truth. In regard to personal understanding in relation to these generic knowledge, and also Ivan Andrić has covered so much in his novels as well, and you can find this in his book, which is called The Wedding, and also on the book The Bridge over Drina, when he says that when church is closed, when the power is replaced by force, those who everybody loses power, and only the strong men take over everything. Thank you. Živojin, the Association of Journalists, did not react towards these media attacks by the politicians, and this is the reason we are having this discussion. This is your interpretation. This is when we. I want to single out once again. I will be once again repeating interpretations. Okay, why didn't the association respond, and how you as a president are observing the situation when the media and the journalists are being accused without any singular names or evidence? Where is the line between the pressures and critical critics of the media, if such rhetorics could influence security or professional credibility of journalists and the media? In such politically sensitive cases, what is the responsibility of the media themselves in the reporting, and what is your opinion? What should be the minimum of professional public standards of communication to avoid such situations in the future? You have responded to the first question. Thank you for that. The situation is as it is. If the institutions are at their minimum level of existence, then everything else creates public life and influence what, according to rules, both existence of dualist society exists. I would not allow for the public consciousness, would not allow to have such an atmosphere where, without any facts or singling out names or arguments, you could accuse one entire entity. So, what is misunderstood very often? Media and the media community are an entity which should somewhere, especially in such societies like this one, provide some kind of stability, not only in the sense of informing or transmitting, but in the sense of personal daily life decisions. This fact where the atmosphere is established that there are some whom we do not know of, I would not agree that it did not affect the majority of people dealing with doing this work, because for sure individuals say no, but the media community says yes, we are affected by the fact, which was consciously generalization and this called collective responsibility which exists. We have to remember the fact that there is no masses which are responsible for something, or there is no collectivity responsible for something. There are individuals, there are courts, there are institutions, there are names, and at this level we have to terminate this story and draw and use this event like this one as a call. Remain within your political ideologies, remain within your political spheres, remain in your interpolitical conflicts, give up on the idea that one entity which is essential to this territory is attacked as it is being attacked frontally without singling out names nor even any understanding or idea. Okay, thank you. Before we open a discussion, and if anybody has any questions or even someone say something, I would also like to ask a question to myself. You can go. Did you recognize yourself, Budimir, in this criticizing? No, of course I did not. Some colleagues asked me, in fact, some colleagues called me for a statement. He said, he's mentioning Media Center and maybe you personally. I said, no, I did not recognize myself, nor the Media Center. And I will clarify this a bit longer, why I did not recognize myself in this, nor the Media Center, nor myself personally, nor the journalists working here, because I don't work here alone compared to Tanya and Goran. And Goran has given me an excellent idea, but I did not recognize myself for 3 reasons. The first one is that Srpska Lista does not have any problems of singling out names because earlier they, 2 times at least, have mentioned my name personally in the worst possible way when I was talking about a single mother in Goibula, where they have mentioned in the press release that I'm a wider help plan to deteriorate the Srpska Lista. People have reacted. The woman was given shelter the next day, and I'm still in hell, apparently. Once again, later they mentioned in their statements my name. I think it was when they were talking with a colleague from Radio Gračanica. This is one of the reasons. And I don't know why they did not single out now my name as well. This is one of the reasons why I did recognize myself. Second, yeah, but he was mentioning some kind of a debate while you are the only ones organizing debates. Yes, true. We did organize them, and even today we are organizing debates, and last week as well we organized a debate within this project, as we have organized 600 so far, and thousands of shows, and different other formats for podcasts, movies, video tutorials, etc. And I don't know what is an issue here. We, in these debates, always had people who would come, share their opinion, their problem, position, being them politicians, doctors, sports people, economists, analysts, journalists, even citizens themselves. And at the last debate we had also said some citizens, these were open, even this person, Igor Simic, he was also given space in media center. And this is what Goran mentioned earlier. Archive, in fact, is our best ally. Just take the archives, not only Mr. Simic, but everybody else who are feeling not okay with it, what we did do and how we did it. And when I mentioned Mr. Simic, it was exactly this space when he was given space, around 10 years ago. And look now, he's talking about the same problem, which the same debate was covered by these people. This one was unemployed, had no work, was sharing critics on behalf of the Minister of Police, Ivica Dačić, who did not hire him, although he promised him. If you search in Google, you might find Igor Simic Slovno-Srpski, you might find when he says in the best in the class when he finished in the police academy, and Dačić promised him that he will be hiring him in 7 days, and he did not hire him even after 6 months, meaning that 6 years. This was in 2015 when he was in our show. So while I was not part of the system, while I have a problem, system is at fault. When I'm part of the system and I have 2 or 3 salaries, then it is your fault for giving space people to talk. Look now. Whatever I think about Igor Simic, I think that he is not such an opportunist and somebody who puts their head into the sand, and I think this is the second reason. He did not think about media center, nor myself. The third reason is here when he mentioned these debates, and he was thinking about our debates. The first public presence was at the debate in media center sometime 12 or 13 years ago. Oliver Ivanovic is not alive, Angelika Čup is. We were working here together. When we called Oliver to a debate, he said, I have one young, eloquent lawyer, please let us promote him, we need him. And that's the reason how he came here. So I'm pretty sure that Igor Simic would not spit into the well where he took the water to drink from. So this is the third reason why I think that he does not think of us. What I would like now to send a message to Igor, not only Igor Simic, but all other politicians and public figures who dare try to attack media and journalists should be careful, above all, and be careful because of themselves as well. Because among such media here, and journalists being them quasi or this or that type. There are also people who work some research where they get in touch or get onto the way of some dangerous people, criminals who forge documents and then maybe sell soil to others, Serbian soil, Serbian land, and then also get in fights with some powerful people who construct hundreds of illegal buildings. And if you are drawing a sign of a target on somebody's forehead, and that might be used by somebody else to attack, injure the journalist, or God forbid, kill such journalists. I don't know now how are then to explain to their friends, godfathers, family members that it is not your fault for drawing such targets on their foreheads. We had similar cases, we concretely know, and actually Tanya have written a letter to President Vučić. President Vučić 6 or 7 years ago also was, and China at that time as well as he is today, he was targeting all media, but then the next day he apologized because, when he returned. But he apologized, which is okay, and we as an association, I think then we have greeted that reaction. So it is very dangerous. Not only politicians, but everybody else, part of public life, dealing in this manner, not only with media, but towards everybody, because you might not know what might happen and what might somebody else do, and then you get blamed for that. As Živojin said, we have regulatory bodies. If you are unhappy with something, you have courts, you have institutions dealing with all these things. Go ahead and publicly. As I said, I didn't recognize myself, nor the colleagues didn't. So attacking anybody, you are targeting. This is not okay. Go ahead. If I have any questions. Zorica, I don't know what to ask. Do you know what Igor Simic meant when he said, when he mentioned quasi-journalists? Why? Because they reported about the people who lost their jobs. How? What did you understand? How did the media contribute in arresting these 7? This is what I would like to know. I'm unclear with this. We have media who went silent on arresting, respectively, people losing their jobs or being kicked out of their jobs, or some media who reported on the discussion which was organized here. Do you know what Igor Simic is actually complaining about? Okay, we are in a paradox, and here we all know, even here, nobody has any family relations with none of the parties, those who were kicked off their jobs, nor the ones that were arrested. And considering this, you should judge or not judge reporting. This is truly unbelievable. This is a situation where we are in a situation of a paradox, where out of a sudden everything is known, and we have met people who are our friends here. And now you are going to say, okay, media are to be blamed for this. Come on, people. This, in a wider context, this means that such an atmosphere in which we live is an atmosphere of a prison, and in such an atmosphere where you might find yourself tomorrow in a situation that somebody who is there to go silent, or something which has happened to somebody who is there with you every day. Please, we are playing a dangerous game here now, in a situation where there is institutions are inexistent. Regulatory bodies were mentioned. What regulatory bodies? Come on, this is inexistent. When did any regulatory body resolve anything here to somebody, to the media? Please. When did? Let us not talk. They did fine Most TV for Oliver Vanos. There are courts. There is a claim suit. We have gained 1 and 2 claim suits against the municipality of Gračanica. We have another one when the mayor has took us to court for. And what did the regulatory body do? What did they do? In relation to what? With the media in general. I'm telling you now. There are mechanisms to fine journalists. They have mechanisms, but these mechanisms don't work. Even in the cases of war crimes and wrong list for war crimes. Press council. We also have a press council. Let me just add to what Živojin said on a paradox. It would be nice for the public to understand that the media are not part of the problem, but are always part of the solution by reporting on what is happening. There are 2 definitions. Of course, there are countless, but 2 I like the most, and which are technical and short, saying that the media are the mirror of the society, showing what is happening in the environment where we live by reporting on one or another item. And once again, let me return to Orwell. He says that journalists is when you report something somebody doesn't want to see published, while everything has to do with public. And I must admit, I fully agree to this definition, and I like it the most. I will try to start to respond from north. I think that I'm clear what happened when Zorica's question, and my knowledge I based on what you as our colleagues have reported. I believe in your reports. And especially because this was happening even earlier. So we have a classic political mechanism, and this is the effect of control, damage control. This is how they call it. What happened? It happened that 7 people were arrested, that it is about the managers of health and education institutions within the Republic of Serbia system, and that they, in the pyramid of influence from top down, are, how to say, very important indicators. I will not call them subjects, but indicators. And if it happens to one of the directors to get arrested for allegedly, as you are also suspecting, and you base your reporting based on some documents and also the testimonies of the damaged parties, because they have listened to the order. Secondly, if the documents are true, which you have published on them being kicking out people of their jobs, this is an attack on the legal order of the Republic of Serbia, which political party is saying that protecting it here for years, and that they have a powerful enemy that is attacking them. Now you have stakeholders which is verbalizing political work by protecting the constitutional order of the Republic of Serbia, but you have also serious testimonies and indications that in fact from within they were being violating it in 2 ways. First, I'm not a lawyer, but once again I will rely on lawyers and testimonies and general logic when you see that somebody is losing their job for not being politically suitable. Constitution of the Republic of Serbia, nor any legislation of the Republic of Serbia does not recognize somebody losing a job for being politically acceptable or unacceptable. This is direct consequence, legal consequence. And the second one is that at the time when the entire state apparatus of the Republic of Serbia and Kosovo is being dismantled. We have the main political stakeholder, if this comes to be true, is directly opening the doors to Kosovo authorities to enter such a system, regardless how much these are against it. And then you have journalists who publish these testimonies, documentation. There is no other political enemy in this situation for Srpska Lista, and according to earlier practice in this controlled damage effects, you have to have a political competitor. This is modus operandi at the very end, not only to Srpska Lista, but Serb Population Party, but you also see with self-determination and other political parties in Kosovo. This is something which in political marketing is done by political parties, not all, but especially those who base their power on propaganda, agitprop, Spain. And this type of political marketing, I understand what is happening. Political competitor, media become political competitor directly, who shows the truth. And this is not important only for political discourse public, but this damage control is also important to calm down the political body. This is the reason you have coming the highest senior officials of Srpska Lista to Central Kosovo, because it's important to calm down their people here now and tell them, look, it will not be you responsible. We are here. We are going to resolve this because we have one modus operandi. Once again, I repeat for the third time now, these parties with their electoral body, that political body was based on privileges, insisting on privileges and not responsibility, except for basic privilege. And this is listening from top down. Now, this type of listening brings some direct consequences to people of lower ranks, directors of institutions in this sense, which, as Živojin said, in another context, have their families, are one or another way are linked. This is a small community living very difficulty in harsh conditions, and this topic now is opened the question of the stability of the electoral body. And this is the reason why it is now being attacked. What was the question? Let me also respond. Is it clear for us what happened? What is Igor Simic attacking the media exactly for when talking about this topic? We don't know. We don't know. Yes, but we do not know what he didn't say, except for mentioning at a certain time debates which are not being organized for some other things. Our debate was organized on the day when they were organized. It was transmitted after these people were arrested. So our debate could not instigate arrest. And even if our media products, I would like to have such a pressure, then half of municipality of Gračanica would be in prison if somebody was to take our stories for granted on illegal construction, 5 million euros public utility company, and then exchanging 17 hectares of land for I don't know how much, 18 meters of private road. Even our journalists, this is the reason why we work, to see justice being served in a certain way. But what I think is that this has caused people, unfortunately, were arrested. This has caused serious consequences in the public, and what is probably hurting Mr. Simic is the numbers. Goran has mentioned numbers, percentage on trusting politicians. I'm mentioning numbers from our debate, which was watched by around 2 million people. Some parts of the debate, and the debate were followed by 2 million people, and this is probably thousands and thousands of comments, negative comments. Not against the media, but politicians, etc. Hence, this probably is hurting them, and now let us blame somebody. It is not us to be blamed by the media for people being arrested. Look, those people went to the police a week earlier, have given statements. They have publicly talked about this. These people in other media, international media, were giving statements and published documents and their testimonies. How can the media be blamed for anything? But this is it. It is the easiest to blame somebody else and not yourself, or I don't know whom else. And this is it. Simple said. Go ahead. Yeah, but how do you interpret this statement? There are no colleagues of ours today here. I want to say the topic is related to the media. Media were the ones singled out by one politician, one political party, which is very influential here, while here we have only two TV stations, three including yours as well. Maybe they are the ones who Mr. Simic was talking about and they didn't want to come. I truly don't know. Why? Usually. Maybe they are the ones, I don't know, they recognize themselves. And they felt bad coming and talking about this. We are talking about, no, we sent to more than 1,000 different addresses invitations. Do they come? Media come, of course they come. Sometimes even citizens, politicians come. We had Mr. Trajkovic recently. We were anticipating, since somebody mentioned that the representatives of Srpska Lista were in Gračanica today in the morning, we were anticipating that they might be coming as well, or any other politicians, to talk about this. I have publicly called them, but in the panel, we call only people panelists. And while in general we publish news, Kim Radio, people in Srpska Lista usually read this and Kosev, so they have seen this article, this is for sure. And when talking about coming, since Mr. Simic has mentioned that somebody did not call the other party, there are no other parties. If he meant about our debate was about the facts and the information. So, at the very beginning, we have singled out that Rašić is claiming this, that Srpska Lista is responsible for people being terminated their contracts, that Srpska Lista said that these are notorious lies, and then we had panelists here, we had citizens who were talking. We do not make any conclusions, we leave it to the audience, people, public to draw a conclusion on their own who is right and who is wrong, and that's it. It is now stupid that I'm talking about this, that I'm justifying myself, while there is no reason at all for that. Well, but that would be an answer to your question. Maybe anybody else? For colleagues. I don't know what is the practice. As far as I can remember, debates in media centers are always have good numbers and visitors. I truly believe that there is some kind of interest to be somewhere else, and not here. But I'm just coming back to the previous targeting even those without any names. It has been proven in both practice and media theory also bring a risk of auto-censorship. I do not want to input to anything what was said by colleagues, but just wanted to confirm. This is a boring topic. What do journalists face in their life? And to be honest, I would like to justify the lack of presence of our colleagues. Okay, Živojin? There is time. From the time this happened, I think it is an excellent time to draw a line and never bring again into a situation to be forced to single out our colleagues. We always have to have in mind personalities and the meeting we are going to have tomorrow with the same colleagues. We always have to have in mind that if somebody even violates the code and the rules, there is always somebody beside them who disagrees to something. It would be ideal to come to a moment when we can exchange opinions without any pressures or with the lowest pressure possible, to have the sense of liberty. But above all, the most important is how within the media community, within this craft, we meet people and how we assist each other to be better. Okay? Any others? No? Okay, let us just... We have lost a lot of people, a lot of time on this topic. I didn't plan. Why me? I am the most... People think the most what they think. You think on behalf of the most people. No. I wanted to say something more about those people who are losing their jobs and where there were such reactions. We did several stories. We had a gentleman from Kamenica last week who has called us. We have recorded who was fired, lost his job without any reasons. 2 years later, he calls us and tells us, they returned me to our job, but don't report about that. We said, okay, then 2 months ago. I didn't mention the name yet. Then 2 or 3 months ago, we had another person who lost social assistance. He directly accused Srpska. We asked Srpska that we didn't get any response. We published. No, it is the comments, views that hurt them. But what to do now? I would only like to say something about the position and the problem and the challenges of the media, especially when talking about this economic dependence or existential issues. How much is it difficult today to get economic sustainability of media in Kosovo? Why is especially support of international donors to the Serbian media in Kosovo is decreasing or insufficient? How much does this lack of donor support influence existence of local editorial offices? And what would it mean to see a closure of a local Serbian media for the community which they serve? Živojin. About this and I truly loved listening about Andrić Orville and the social theory and media theory. This truly is excellent, but I think what is most important for us is that we should not be activists nor anybody's servant. This is the essential representation of an endangered professional in societies without any institutions or with minimal functioning institutions. Thank you for your question about the relationship of the international community towards the media in Kosovo and Metohija. It was better, I think, on the first day after the end of the bombing, and there were more hope for survival than today. So, international community decided to make this territory better. It was said like this then. And then we are in a position today that in 2001, 2 or 3, we had more media than there are today. And we had daily threats if certain media will be closed or certain format will survive. Look, I wanted to come here today and wear a t-shirt Slobodan Srpski, but it was because so much time has gone through and it looks so worn out that I felt ashamed of it. Why? Because we had best possible TV formats ever in this territory. And to be honest, I believed that this show has a life. How many good and important shows, good and important people left Kim Radio? How many programs vanished? How many radio stations or authentic local voices? How is it important that billions of international community went to everything else except for what they were talking about, believing, and what we think is, we know, is the basis of a development of a society. In fact, and the trust in the institutions is gone. The hope that these will be functioning is minimum, and by this, They gave up on an entity that would be in between citizens and political parties. The essence to everything is the following. Please apologize. I remember the very great support TV Most had from international community. Unity, tens of people, but this does not mean that if institutions were becoming worse, that the idea of pluralism and democracy was losing its impetus, and that with that media should also fade away. So this is the idea, because the media are not a foreign body between political ideas, political parties, nationalism, so or parties in conflict. Hence, according to the nature, regardless if it is going to belong to one or to another, as much as media could be controlled within it, you could find a person, a personality, an individual who might, maybe not at that time, speak up, but might speak up later. Finally, I do not want to be too long as some others here, but if there is money for weapons and there is no money for media, the gun has gone bust. Okay? Goran? What are the greatest challenges today for the Serbian media or your editorial office, and how difficult it is to provide for financial sustainability for the media today, and what would be the consequences in shutting down local media for importing the citizens and public interest in general? I will repeat what Živojin said. It is there is less and less money for the media. It is very clear what our situation is. The problem is double-folded. First is the lack of clarity because of the lack of finances, and the second one is, if you want to ask me, and I speak about this for years, is the lack of people, because money, if there is money, and as much as it is now, it is not enough, but even if there were to be more money, it would be insufficient, but on the other hand, there is no people, and you know that then even if you get more money, there is no need from one side. On the other side, I also agree to the majority of what Živojin said, but I also have to add that the issue at the very end of the media doesn't have to numbers nor their position on the market, because we were never players on the market. When we have to be honest about it, we depended on international donations, and this is confirmed even today. This is the question of democracy of a one society or position. If you want to look at it, this is the question of transparency and also being having resistance towards the disinformation. This is what we're missing the most. Now I'm basing to what I know when we talk about editorial offices which report in Serbia and Kosovo. These are the means for basic work. So we cannot go and publish demanti and fight against false news. Let us give us money to work truly, follow the news. We will be giving our best in the best possible manner, and I'm pretty sure that there will not be disinformation anymore. If something happens to the bigger number of local media, except for then our fate, which is not so good, we will be losing this area which is in charge to control the authorities. We will be losing these intermediaries, and this is especially dangerous as we see in situations like this one, when you have to report what is going on in one hospital or in a school which is in your street, and similar and similar. Simply said, we will be closing ourselves even more, as unfortunately part of the media is closed into their national bubbles, which is very dangerous in societies like this one, in post-conflict societies. How to say now? Nobody from us should not, or at least should not attempt, when we get up, start thinking, if this morning there is newspapers in my surroundings. So for 3 years, we are the only European area without the press. What happened? In which environment do we live? So who allowed, in what way, in what manner, who has allowed all of this? People were leaving this territory from Kamenets. We have the following testimony. That is your father still in Kamenets? No. Why? He could not live without the newspaper. This is the final drop. It was not only that, of course, but that's final drop. I would like to conclude what Goran said and add something else. We are now talking about editorial offices, small. I call them guerrilla media offices. The small number of us who believe that we do our editorial work as independently possible. All we are dependent financially. We are under a double dagger. It is not about the lack or existence of such finances. This is one dagger, and the second one is the lack of human capacities. And in this sense, we are part of the wider context of people, Serbs leaving Kosovo. This is the trend. Brain drain, and additionally, we are in this the domain of lists in the editorial office. You can notice if you're doing something or not doing it, where you have to produce something. Why would you invite the youth to come to work, do something more dangerous, and if they are in the politics of lists, in the comfort zone of privileges without any responsibility, etc. And I would also like to add that we also are in a new global mainstream. It is not a trend anymore, and this is that money is only for those acceptable media. These are not in the crisis, being it in the States or any other Western countries or smaller media here, or if we talk about the media in Serbian. Suitable, acceptable media in this change of share and influence are now, how to say now, safe cloud of money driving around. Money is not being directed to professional media anymore, nor to the media which challenge or express critical opinion. You only have to understand the global position we are currently in, and this is one of the reasons what we also financially are having troubles, because the donor policy is such. We don't have time, but it is the shift in position has been visible for 5 to 6 years. I do not want to take more, but now I, as a Budimir, when asking, as Juvin said, saying that I don't know who he meant on. Buddha, it is about you. Okay. We will be using time later. If I'm allowed, just to add one thing, is very important, really. I will not take longer. We are in a situation that technological powers are determining what is the news. Most of people get information from social network, and these are controlled by rich corporations, and simply put, you depend on their algorithm if the thing you have written about today will be read at all or not. If in our feed our title is placed to 256th place, nobody will be seeing it. Hence, the nature of our work is changing, and our donors, or at least our experiences as like respectively Kim Radio, is that every now and then, how many views do you have, how many likes do you have, how many visitors do you have, how many returned. So this game is also killing journalism, especially local journalism. You cannot expect that the news on potholes being open will be read by more people than living in La Prisella. To what Goran said, I will have to get a bit more. The audience has also changed, and the media consumers also changed. Also, media channels changed. Perfect symbiosis is being established between politicians or the power centers who have their personal media channels, and this is the reason the media is being allocated for good media, who have their own Twitter pages, Facebook pages, who directly communicate with their readers. You have an excellent example, the way in the region how self-determination has responded to last year's reports from Reporters Sans Frontières when they dropped so many places. When they said we don't see any problems, we communicate directly with our readers while the problem is created by some individual media. And I would also like to quote, almost not paraphrase what they have said. And you have the reading audience who perfectly reacts to this time of post-truth, when emotions are very important, when truth is not important. It is not only, it has to be hyperbolization of good news or bad news. And when it is very important that the audience identifies with such news. And this is not the job of professional journalists, and then the audience identifies with either statements of politicians or. And in this sense, the lack of maneuvers, the media are losing donors, and then they are directing their attention to direct results. And this is the direct symbiosis between media consumers and those channels of communication which implement the agenda, whatever the agenda might be. Okay? Anybody else have to add something? Ask? No? Thank you. Let us not forget about this index. Media freedoms. Yeah, but only briefly, please. A simple detail only. So absolutely, we cannot talk about, and this has to be reiterated always, about media freedom and the increase, or the getting a better position on the list of different organizations, as long as we do not know that at least somewhere somebody started resolving the fate of 17 kidnapped, killed, and missing journalists, Serbs, Albanians, and foreigners, as long as we have tens of unreported cases in the atmosphere of persecution of journalists. Yesterday in Prizren, there was an incident which was par excellence and will not be noticed by any international organizations. Simply put, this is the atmosphere and mentality in which you are going to attack, yell, beside ID. You cannot stop in front of repression and say, stop, I'm recording. Okay, thank you. This, in fact, is a specific topic, media freedom, but you have mentioned, but 17 journalists last year, we also had around 70 incidents or attacks against media workers and journalists, but Kosovo has still. Yeah, but it advanced only owing to the law on independent media commission, which the Constitutional Court has rejected, and the Association of Kosovo Journalists has singled out individual media experts owing to this decision of the Kosovo judiciary. The position has advanced only for that. And better approach towards the public broadcaster, especially in Serbia, who do not have any board, and the media commission is non-functional now. But this is another topic. Thank you all for being. I would also like to thank colleagues, journalists, for whom this topic, as Goran said, was boring. I would like to thank the panelists. I would like to wish you a warm and nice day to all of you. Thank you.